everybody. We're going to jump right into it this morning. So the last video we just watched was the woman at the well, found in chapter 4 of the Gospel of John. I'm assuming that everybody's kind of read that before, maybe. Hopefully you did your homework and read it prior to this morning, and so you've got some idea. I'm going to start off. If you want to follow in your pew Bibles, you're welcome to do so. But John chapter 4, Jesus knew the Pharisees had heard that he was baptizing and making more disciples than John. Though Jesus himself didn't baptize them, his disciples did it. So he left Judea and returned to Galilee. He had to go through Samaria on the way. Eventually he came to the Samaritan village of Sychar, near the field that Jacob gave to his son Joseph. Jacob's well was there, and Jesus, tired from the long walk, sat wearily beside the well about noontime. Okay, noontime. Soon a Samaritan woman came to draw water, and Jesus said to her, "Please give me a drink." He was alone at the time because his disciples had gone into the village to buy some food. All right, so we're going to look at a quick map. This is the area that we're talking about in time. He was going from Judea and returning to Galilee. So here's Judea. Here's Jerusalem, right there on the green dot. Here's Galilee. Now, he didn't have to go through Samaria. He chose to go through Samaria. This area in red is Samaria. Now, maybe the most common thing we know about Samaria is the parable of the Good Samaritan. Now, all of you guys in the fire department talked about this yesterday. What's the Good Samaritan law? What's that mean?
You help somebody and you end up accidentally not helping them, you're not held liable.
Yeah, so somebody is choking. We don't have to have a medical degree. We can go and give them the Heimlich maneuver. Because that's what a Good Samaritan would do. Try to do their best that they possibly can, and you won't be held accountable. That's exactly what the Good Samaritan did. Now, what a lot of people don't understand about the Good Samaritan law and why that story and that parable is so important is Samaria, they hated Jews, and Jews hated Samaritans. They were like, the Jews considered them half-breeds. They weren't real Jews. They were a much lesser Jew. Okay, the animosity, the bitterness that these two groups held for one another, this is not Purdue and IU. This is not Republicans and Democrats. This is something far worse than that. It would be like us walking through Little Palestine in Chicago. Okay, if they had all diehard Muslims that hated Christians, wanted to kill Christians, it'd be like that. And I'm not saying that all Palestinians do that, but I hope you understand it. The closest I can give you in American society would be maybe back in the 1940s, the 1950s. And a Klansman's walking through downtown Chicago. Okay, that's the kind of hatred that they had toward one another. Okay, they acknowledged each other as people, but they were a whole lot lesser people. And Jews would never hang out with Samaritans. Matter of fact, Jews couldn't associate with Samaritans. Okay, they'd be unclean. Now, what time of the day was this? Noon, thank you. When's it the hottest outside? Noon, thank you. Several years ago, I was on a mission trip to Kenya. And these ladies that you see right here would walk more than 6 miles a day from their village to the well to get fresh water. Now, the wells over there were nasty. I remember the missionary looking at me. We looked at the well water, and I'm not drinking that stuff. And the missionary told us, it's not what you see that can kill you, it's what you can't see in that water that will kill you. And so they have to treat their water, but they would walk 6 miles a day. Look how miserable that was. Okay, now, obviously, she doesn't seem miserable, right? She doesn't. Was it hard work? Yeah, it was. Kids, all women, by the way, okay, no boys. Little girls and moms would walk together each day to get water and go back for cooking and cleaning. Now, some well-meaning Christians, I'm assuming Christians, maybe they were just Western Europeans, that members of the Peace Corps, decided, hey, they're spending way too much time walking to and from the well. It would be far more efficient if we just had more wells. So let's go in and let's drill some more wells here in Kenya and let them get to water a whole lot quicker and a whole lot easier, right? Typical American thought. But when we go to the world, we're called to make Christians, not make Americans. And you know what happened after they started drilling more wells? It tore their society apart. Go ahead, Roxanne. Sometimes, why did it tear their society apart? This is a very important part of their culture. They would walk together with the moms. It was social time for the adult women. It was social time for the young girls. It was time for moms to teach their daughters how to be moms, how to be women in that society. Incredibly important. Typical Americans, we just completely overlook that. We're looking at efficiency. Well, now they're not spending time with their family members anymore. They're not learning. They're not being educated. They're not having social time. Okay, the woman at the well. What time was it? Noon. Are you going to go get water at noon? No. They would go first thing in the morning when it was cool, and they would go last thing in the evening when it was cool. The only way you would go out at noon is if you had nobody to socialize with. Okay, so as we read the story of the woman at the well, it's important to keep this in mind. She wasn't traveling with the other women in her village to get water. She was flying solo at noon, heat of the day, because nobody wanted to be around her, or maybe she didn't feel like she should be around anybody else. Now, for the first time, when I was a kid, growing up and I read this story, it did not resonate with me at all. Why? Because I'm a guy. And this is talking about a woman. How does this story relate to me? Well, the fact of the matter is, we are all of us are that woman at the well in one point in our lives or another. Okay, so let's talk about that woman at the well and what we know about her. Jesus strikes up the conversation, please give me a drink. And he was alone at that time because the disciples had gone to the village to buy some food. First of all, really important, Jesus was by himself, alone, in Samaria, where he's not supposed to be, talking to a female, which he shouldn't be doing. No, I was told many, many years ago as a pastor, as a teacher, never be alone with a woman, unless she's your wife. I shouldn't be going out to dinner appointments, okay, with another female, right? It's not good. Certainly doesn't look good. And here's Jesus talking to the Samaritan woman at the well, by their lonesomes. Not good, not good. Jesus replied, the woman was surprised, verse 9, for Jews refused to have anything to do with Samaritans. She said to Jesus, you are a Jew, and I am a Samaritan woman. Why are you asking me for a drink? Jesus replied, if you only knew the gift God has for you and who you are speaking to, you would ask me, and I would give you living water. But sir, you don't have a rope or a bucket, she said, and this well is very deep. Where would you get this living water? And besides, do you think you're greater than our ancestor Jacob, who gave us this well? How can you offer better water than he and his sons and his animals enjoyed? Jesus replied, anyone who drinks this water will soon become thirsty again. But those who drink the water I give will never be thirsty again. It becomes a fresh, bubbling spring within them, giving them eternal life. Please, sir, the woman said, give me this water. Then I'll never be thirsty again, and I won't have to come here to get water. Go and get your husband, Jesus told her. I don't have a husband, the woman replied. Jesus said, you're right. You don't have a husband, for you have had 5 husbands, and you aren't even married to the man you're living with now. You certainly spoke the truth. Sir, the woman said, you must be a prophet, so tell me, why is it that you Jews insist that Jerusalem's... Okay, we'll get there in a second. You don't have a husband, for you've had 5 husbands, and the man you're living with right now is not even your husband. You're not married. Now, growing up, years and years, if I can think up 30 or 40 years ago, when I was growing up and going to Bible school, some translations, some pastors immediately said, this lady's a harlot, right? She's an adulteress. She's a harlot. She's just, scum. That's how this woman was always portrayed. The Bible doesn't say that. The Bible simply says that she's been married 5 times. Now, in those days, only men could file for divorce. Okay, we don't know if her husband's passed away. In those days, if I'm the brother and I pass away, Wife gets married off to the other brother. Okay, and so on. You keep going to family members automatically. You want to be married to Joe, Roxanne? Okay, and just one. Okay, so that's how. So we don't know if the husband's died, and she got. We don't know if the husband's filed for divorce. We don't know that she was an adulterer or an adulteress. So we shouldn't make those conclusions that this lady was just a harlot, a tramp, who knows what. We don't know if she was physically abused. We don't know. Maybe she was infertile. She couldn't have babies. And so the husband just kept passing her off. You can't have any babies. I don't want you in my life or whatever. We don't know. Don't automatically assume that the lady was horrible. All we can glean from this is for sure is that she had no friends. She had no family. And she went out at high noon to get water. Maybe she wasn't welcome with the group. Maybe she just felt she didn't feel herself comfortable with the group. We don't know. All we can say for this is she was an outcast. If she wasn't an outcast, she wouldn't be gathering water at noon. And all of us, at one point in our lives or another, have been an outcast. All of us at one point in a time or another have probably felt bad about something we've done, felt that we didn't fit in the group, felt that we weren't in the cool groups, we had to do things. We all been here, guys and girls. So it's not just about the woman. Sir, the woman said, you must be a prophet. Since you know so much about me, you've got to be a prophet. You've got to be amazing. So tell me, why is it that you Jews insist that Jerusalem is the only place of worship? Well, we Samaritans claim it is here at Mount Gerizim where our ancestors worshipped. Jesus replied, believe me, dear woman, the time is coming when it will no longer matter whether you worship the Father on this mountain or in Jerusalem. We're here today. We don't have to worship in Jerusalem. You Samaritans know very little about the one you worship, while we Jews know all about him. For salvation comes through the Jews. But the time is coming, indeed, it is here now, when true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth. The Father is looking for those who will worship him that way, for God is spirit, so those who worship him must worship in spirit and in truth. The woman said, I know the Messiah is coming, the one who is called Christ. When he comes, he will explain everything to us. And Jesus says, I am the Messiah. So at that point in time, she gets excited. The disciples come back in verse 27. They were shocked to find him talking to a woman, but none of them had the nerve to ask, what do you want with her, or why are you talking to her? Okay, now, let's put ourselves in the disciples' place real quick. James and John, the sons of thunder, they come over here, they see Jesus talking to a Samaritan woman by himself. Holy moly, what's he done? What's he doing? Nobody's great, googly moogly. Nobody's going to believe him now if he's talking to a Samaritan woman. This is horrible for what we got going on. James, John, can you believe he's doing this? I mean, think about what these guys are thinking about. It was bad. It was very bad, at least in those days. The woman left her water jar beside the well and ran back to the village, telling everyone, come and see a man who told me everything I ever did. Could he possibly be the Messiah? So the people came streaming from the village to see him. Meanwhile, the disciples were urging Jesus, Rabbi, eat something. Okay, but anyway, the lady goes off from the well, goes to her village, tells everybody about Jesus. Jesus ends up staying 2 days there, and many Samaritans come to believe in Jesus. Okay? Now, a couple things that you may have never realized about John chapter 4 and the woman at the well. Number one, this is the longest conversation recorded from Jesus in the Bible. Conversation. He speaks more in the Bible to the woman at the well than he spoke with his disciples, than he spoke with his family members. This is a long conversation he's having with a Samaritan woman, a lady that he shouldn't be talking with, a person from a city, a town or area that he shouldn't be socializing with. And John chapter 4, this is the first person outside the disciples that he acknowledges himself to be the Messiah. He didn't go to Jews other than his disciples. He didn't go to Jerusalem and tell everybody in the world in Jerusalem, hey, I'm the Messiah. He goes to Samaria, the place of outcasts, a place where people would not want to go. That's where he does it. He spends time there, and she evangelizes and tells the whole community, and many people came to believe in him. That's why I spent 2 days there. To me, this is fascinating. Where are the places that we should go? Where are those outcast areas that we should be going to as Christians in our society? Who are the outcasts that we are not reaching? Who are the outcasts that we think, oh, we should never hang out with those guys? Now, I've got one more. I shared this before, but I want to pay tribute, I guess. Oh, here's some more kids carrying water. Show that picture over there. This gentleman is a gentleman by the name of Brother Max. Back in the day at Purdue University, 30 years ago for me, Brother Max would stand on the lawn. All the kids would come up, sit around him, and Brother Max would be quoting scripture. I don't want to say preaching the Bible, but he would quote scripture. And he'd call the kids out. And he would just make accusations for just, I'm sure he was a good guy. I never got to talk to him by myself, one-on-one. But I sat down with all the kids and listened to him being heckled, being jeered, being taunting back. You ever looked at a girl with lust in your eyes? You're gonna burn! And he would do that all day long. He'd call the girls out for wearing skimpy clothes. He'd take his Bible, you're gonna burn! And twist it like this all the time. That's what I remember about Brother Max. Now, I know nobody that became a Christian because Brother Max was throwing accusations out at people. Okay, I think that in this story with the Samaritan, that being said, I don't want to talk bad about Brother Max. He may have done what he thought he was called to do. And there may have been some Christians that became Christians because of Brother Max. I don't know. I can tell you this, he stands out in my memory. 30 years later, I still remember Brother Max. So maybe he was doing exactly what God wanted Brother Max to do. Okay, but here's the example set by Jesus. Jesus did not go to the woman at the well, and Jesus did not say, hey, you're a harlot, you're an adulteress. You've been married 5 times, and you're not even married to the person you're living with. Is not even your husband. He didn't say that, did he? What did he do? He said, hey, I'm thirsty. Can you give me a drink? He met her where she was, okay, on her level. She's pulling out water. Maybe Jesus was legitimately thirsty. Hey, come have a drink. Or maybe he was trying to strike up conversation. He didn't say, you're going to burn. Okay? Every time you read about Jesus in the Bible and how he meets new people and how he shares his story, he doesn't come out with accusations. Okay? He doesn't come out by pointing people and their faults, telling them they're horrible, telling them they're bad. He meets them where they are. All across the board, he meets them where they are. So unfortunately, Brother Max didn't meet the college students where they were. But I still have memories. Can't say they're fond memories, they're good memories of Brother Max. And God rest his soul, because I know he's passed away. As we go to the woman at the well, it's the longest recorded conversation that Jesus has in the entire New Testament. It tells us that the first thing he did was to go out and reach the lost and make disciples. Maybe she was ripe for a spiritual conversation. Okay? Because as soon as he told her, she went out and told everybody. Right? She told everybody in their village. So maybe she was spiritually ripe for something new. Maybe Jesus sensed that. But he started off with a gentle conversation. Okay? Just make conversation with people. If you're out there in the school world, you're out there in the working world, don't go out and just start telling people they're going to burn in hell if they don't follow Jesus. That's not what Jesus did. Okay, we need to follow what he does. He breaks all the societal norms to interact with this woman. Okay, he broke everything. Where in your life, where in my life, in Bat Creek's life, could God be calling us to break a rule? That's one of the reasons why I wanted to have the blessings of the bike. Okay, I'm not disappointed in our turnout. I wish we would have had more, but I would have loved to have all the Harley riders show up here at Bat Creek today. All the outlaw gang we talked about yesterday in Marion show up on their bikes. The Hells Angels show up on your bikes. We're going to reach them where they are. It gives us an opportunity to start a conversation. Okay, not to say you're going to burn, but to say, hey, this is where you are. This is where I am. We're willing to break the rules, to transgress boundaries, to embrace a stranger, have a conversation, to share the love of God with others. So you know, whatever you do, start thinking about that. What kind of rules can we break in order to reach people for Jesus? Because Jesus would be doing it. Okay, I'm not smart as Jesus. I don't have his knowledge, his wisdom, but I want him to guide us and lead us into the places where we should be going. Because that's how we're going to really make an impact on our community.
We really love our church family. So why don't you just come